Hi there, and welcome to another insightful and informative episode of AAU Talks on AAU TV, the voice of higher education in Africa. I believe you're having an awesome day wherever that you are, and also following up on what we're doing here at the AAU, because we're always poised to bring you content that inform, to transform. And for some time now, the AAU has been very, very dedicated to improving quality teaching and learning all across Africa, as our mandate is to always enhance the relevance of higher education in Africa, using our capacity to support higher education institutions the best way we can in any way possible. And one of the very critical ways that now it's important for African higher education to also imbibe and accumulate is the issue of online teaching and learning. Now, since 2019, where the resurgence of COVID-19 was all over the continent, it became a pandemic, the AAU stood on its ground to ensure that we support institutions with innovative ways of trying to enhance teaching and learning through digital platforms. And that also went ahead with the Quality Assurance Directorate here at the AAU, led by Dr. Makuku, who also engaged herself fully to ensure that she runs a series of workshops and educating and also training institutional management and faculty leads to also how they can also try and then enhance teaching and learning using these digital platforms. But today, there is an aftermath where you would be very interested to know the revelations for over 2 years of advocacy for online teaching and learning. We've had some revealings about some institutions not actually grasping the whole idea of online teaching and learning, and some other issues that you would have to know about today. So today, I will be having Dr. Makuku joining me here in the studio to discuss some of the aftermath about the whole issue of online teaching and learning and the way forward, the issues and prospects. So don't go anywhere. Stay with me. I'll be right back, and I'll let talk about all the matters. As usual, we give it a zoom to discussions. So grab your pens and papers and let's do this. Right back. Welcome back to AAU Talks on AAU TV, the voice of higher education in Africa. My name is Ajiman Otrodako, and we're discussing the issues thus far with online teaching and learning, the way forward and prospects, and it's all circling around the quality assurance specialist here at the AAU, Dr. Makuku. Doc, you're welcome to AAU Talks.
Thank you, Ajiman. How are you doing?
Doing good, by God's grace.
Thank you.
And today's discussion is like the Judgment Day.
Yes.
Because there has been an advocacy. Noah has done the advocacy, and the rainfall had come, the flood has come, and then those who will saved, and those who flood will flood.
Okay.
And we're here to give how it all happened. You've been doing this for a while now in terms of advocating, running workshops, international workshops, to say, trying to get institutions, faculty management to buy the idea of online learning and teaching fully.
Yes.
How has the experience been thus far for you?
That's a broad question, and maybe we may need to divide it and chop it up into smaller questions. But basically, it has been interesting. You would realize that since 2020, we started running support workshops, online workshops, which I did maybe every Tuesday and every Thursday with the slogan for the AAU, where we were saying we should keep the university's doors open. And from there, we continued to offer different support. And what I noted from there is I would also attend some online webinars and meetings which were being done by other organizations. It was truly clear that these were only theory oriented sessions. Of course, the Association of African Universities did a Moodle platform training and a big blue button training to one of the universities in Zimbabwe, which is called Lupane State University. Up to now, they continue to talk about it and how it took them through, because it was training for the whole institution. Nobody was left behind. And so I think it tells us how important the institutional training approach is. And it's one thing that I'm quickly going to and advocating for to institutions to say the AAU is here to do international workshops. International workshops, we invite you from different countries and we converge in one country, and we are always rotating the regions and the countries. But after that, that one we consider it as an eye-opener, because an institution can send one person, an institution can send two people, but they now go back with the word to say, no, we need institutional training for everyone here. That's where then we go and now we do the training for a greater part, a greater number of the people, because it then helps to just take it, hit the ground running to implement whatever workshop that we may do. So it's the same with this online teaching and learning. After we realized the gaps, for me, I had 3 gaps. Each time I attended a workshop, the online workshop and training, I would ask quality assurance questions. So how are we going to assure quality when we do this online teaching and learning? Because in Africa, that's why there's been resistance. The assessment and examination part, people were saying, okay, we can do all the teaching and learning, but when it comes to the assessment and the exam, how are we going to make it credible? That's number one. I never used to get answers. Sometimes I would ask where I already have answers, but just to make sure the others on the platform benefit. Okay, the second one was that they left out the practical oriented disciplines. Who would tackle them? How would they be tackled? And I just realized and learned then that people do not know of the wealth of existence of the software platforms and everything that you can use, which is ICT driven, to do the teaching and learning, even of practical oriented discipline. The third one was the lack of the hand holding. To now say, we have talked about the Zoom platform. Okay, you told us there's Zoom, there's Google Classroom. For those who are doing research, you can also use the Google Forms, you can use the SurveyMonkey. But now, do the rest of the people have the knowledge and skills on how to navigate from scratch to have a Zoom account of their own? Right now, I can say when COVID was now relaxing, we started to do face-to-face workshops. Here at the AAU, we have had some. I think at some point the AAU moved to Nigeria. And throughout, because we want to also take note of the gaps that exist, we check on the feedback. We check on the kind of questions that are being asked by our participants and delegates. And we try now to plug. I think when we started the workshops on quality assurance of online teaching and learning, we were more on the theory side, because we were now just saying, let's do advocacy. Let's do education and awareness that besides the Zoom platforms, the Microsoft Teams, the Google Meet, there are many more besides the Moodle platform. There are many more like the Canvas, which they could also use, the Google Classroom, which they could use also at affordable costs, and sometimes at no cost at all. We also wanted to talk about the integration of all these software platforms and everything else. But we realized that we had a lot of work to do. So subsequently, we moved on to hand holding and doing the practical sessions. You can imagine a university with like 3,000 lecturers and maybe 60,000 students. How will they manage? Those who are in the ICT department, which supports the institution, how will they manage 3,000? And maybe there are about 50 or so. And you know, within there, it's not everybody who has got a designation to manage the platforms and assist with within the rapid response teams. So we needed to think of how we were going to equip them to be able to be self-sufficient from owning a Zoom account, or even if it is the institutional Zoom account. Setting up a meeting on its own was a huge challenge, as we were now rolling out the practical sessions. People need to sign up first before they sign in. So they just go to sign in. They are told you have used a wrong username or a wrong password. But they see if you do not have an account, sign in. They don't know what it is. The large majority. Why? Because they are used to having a Zoom link which is already there where they register to attend, or if they are not registering, to use it for teaching and learning. The meeting ID and the passcode is already provided for. So it leads us into seeing this aspect of inadequate training. We need now, as the Association of African Universities, to continue doing the holistic approach of the change management to blended learning. But that blended learning has this important component of online teaching and learning, because people are already used to the face-to-face. Ajeman, can I tell you that in 2022, May, people were now saying we were waiting for the COVID to go so that we can go back fully face-to-face.
Maybe it would mean that universities can't afford soaring more. They can't afford trying to keep up with online teaching and learning. Can that be understood from you?
To some extent, it can be understood, but I can say there are many ways of killing a cat. If you want to, if they really want to embrace the online teaching and learning, they can do it. Why? Because already most of the institutions within the 2 years, they've been jumping onto Zoom. Maybe those who had trainings on Google Classroom, those who have got Canvas and Moodle and the big blue button, the little that they know, they have been jumping onto that. But now, do you know, when we were having some of the workshops, when I said Moodle platform is free, you customize it. And at some point then there are these plugins and what have you, which you now have to pay for in order to customize it to your taste and to what you think you really want to use and maximize. Because the other issue is on maximizing. But people were surprised that Moodle platform is free. So you know the need for knowledge and information dissemination. And as the Association of African Universities, we are more than glad to take up that role, because we are the voice of higher education in Africa. We are the implementing arm of African Union in terms of higher education matters. And we are also the coordinator of the Continental Education Strategy for Africa. So we are well positioned. What we are only saying is calling upon the institutions to be responsive of our supporting initiatives, particularly the workshops. The workshops that we are running now are more than relevant, because we sat down, scrutinized them and see, after the devastating COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah.
How can we help institutions to move on?
Absolutely. That on that note over there, but we also need to go for a quick break. We'll come back. Let's talk more about the inconsistencies with the institutions.
Yes.
What their excuses are, and then what we are losing if we're not keeping up with online teaching and learning. So let's go for just a short break. Right.
Thank you.
Talk more about that.
Okay.
So, if you just joined us, it's our AAU Talks. We're discussing the issues arising from online teaching and learning and how the AAU is trying to drive the message to institutions, but we're facing a counter irresponsiveness from institutions in regards to the solutions that the AAU is proffering in terms of trying to drive online teaching and learning. So, Doc, let's come back to the excuses, or let's say the inconsistencies.
Yes.
Institutions are not able to keep up with online teaching and learning for some reasons that you are aware of. And for some reasons, you believe that it is ridiculous for them to be lament over those issues because there seems to be some benefit way beyond them and their matter. So let's hear from you on that avenue.
Okay, thank you so much. So I think before we went on the break, we were talking about the issue of expense and cost.
Yeah.
That is the number one for them. But we are saying already some investment has been made on the online teaching and learning. If it's very unfortunate for those who were taking the wait and see stance, which means they've closed by now. They became obsolete and irrelevant, and students rushed to those institutions which were agile and highly adaptive, which is one thing that we are calling upon our institutions to do. So coming back to those challenges, if they are talking of that challenge of expense, there are many solutions to it. You know, we have the asynchronous and synchronous. They can discuss with the internet service providers so that once a student is logged in the institutional learning platform on learning management system or website, they should be able to access information to do with teaching and learning for free. They can also download for free. If other institutions have done it, why can't other institutions do it? What they need to do is to check, how did you do it? Besides that, we also have our mobile phones. Most students these days have got smartphones. And maybe they are loaded with these jokes, these videos which are non-educational, which are more social. Why is it that they can't ask their students to use the smartphones to give them volume of work that is going there before they realize it, because they suspect students will be playing games or doing things on the phone. The space will be occupied with academic and educational materials, and that suspicion and discomfort that the lecturers do have will be gone. What do we have? We have radio stations. I can give an example of Ghana that they ended up having many radio stations which were now having designated times for different disciplines too. I mean, there are so many ways.
Would you want to say that higher education institutions in Africa are not being innovative on how to engage students on these digital platforms? Because we have companies like TikTok and co who are able to engage students 24 hours just uploading videos and making fun of themselves on a platform just for viewership, followership, and even some monetization.
Yes.
Yet in higher education, we can't do anything that would take their attention and compete with TikTok on others like Snapchat and co.
Yes, thank you, Ajaman. That is it. But what I can say is not that to give them fault, all of them. No, we can't paint all of them with the same brush. We can't do that. They are highly proactive and agile institutions. But There are others which are not so flexible, which are slow to react. And those ones, it's most unfortunate because gradually they become irrelevant and obsolete because they are not moving according to the times. When they have their graduates, where are they going to be employed? Right now, if you go wherever you go, you find that almost everything that you are doing there for a service or a product purchase, it's digitalized. And even once a week or 2 weeks, we are finding our bank services, they are saying we are upgrading the system. When you go to the post, when you go, let's say to Coca-Cola, you go to these other government offices, they are trying to digitalize, and some have digitalized almost everything. So we don't have a choice as higher and tertiary education, because higher and tertiary education is training the manpower for industry. And so they should not cry foul when they want to go back to face, which will not enable them to expose the students to all these digital platforms and even how to operate them. Because when they are teaching them using the digital platforms and the students are learning using the digital platforms, unconsciously or consciously, they are also learning those digital skills which are required by industry. So they shouldn't cry foul when industry say, you are giving us half-baked graduates. For example, for now, I am saying that maybe every institution for now should go by the blended approach, because that will also help those institutions which cannot buy, for exams, for example, for them to be credible, we can have cameras, but we can't just say we can't buy cameras. Did you go and check how much the cameras cost? Because at one time in my country, just a quick example, I thought the white farmers were the ones who were mostly using herbicides. And so herbicides were expensive. At a point now, I had a large portion to spray the weeds and so on. I said, no, I'll need to buy a herbicide, only to find that herbicides were not as expensive as I thought. So what are the issues, the challenges? Institutions should go out to look for what is available in terms of teaching and learning tools. Some of them are free. Some of them can only be found in India and not in Africa. They are only applicable there. But some are universal. Some of them, you have a grace period to use them, and then you then start paying. But all those are opportunities to use. We can't continue to give excuses, Ajamani, because we have no option in terms of blended teaching and learning. What if another pandemic comes? What of the investment that has already been made? What of the graduate who should have the digital skills upon graduation? So I'm saying that institutions even should be highly proactive in making sure that every course that is being taught in the university, every degree program should have an ICT component on it. Let's look at languages, for example. People would say, oh, why would you need a ICT component in humanities? But now there's translation, isn't it? Even for local events now, you may have English, but you want Chi, for example, in Ghana. So that Chi translator, what will they be using? Isn't it ICT-driven pieces of equipment and tools and platforms to be able to do so? So when we look at music, graphics, what are they using to have those graphics, to have the music? We now have the pieces of equipment which are online, even the sounds of some of the pieces of equipment which were operated manually. Now you can play around with them on some sound system which is there. So we don't have a choice. Let's look at medicine. Let's look at architecture. let's look at agriculture. Let's look even at our psychology and sociology. When you are doing the psychological tests and so on, there are times when you now used to do the tests and what have you, but now maybe you need voice recorders so that after a session is recorded, but you now need to sit and analyze it. But you need to have recorded somewhere. You need some platform or some media which allows you to do certain things which you used to do manually. By then, manually was inefficient. But then also what comes with the digitalization and working with digital workspaces is that there are some levels of efficiency there. But we are not saying they are perfect. But we deal with each and every problem as it comes. The major issue they complain about is the cost of data. I want to say that, and I always stress each time I have an opportunity, during workshops, during our AAU Talks programs, that within every country, there's what we call the NRENs, which are the National Education and Research Networks. They've got a number of objectives. One of them is to have a national network where all the institutions can contribute and draw from. And then they are realizing the economies of scale. Now it drops down the cost, and the cost becomes cheaper by 70 to 80% according to those who have done it and are consistently using it. Isn't it a plus for universities? But now, what is the message to the universities? They need to be active. Do you know where the office is for the NRENs in your country? Do you know how you can be active there? Did you ever bother to check? Or is the first time that as an institution you are hearing about this? If it is the first time, then stand up and start looking for those offices, be part of it, and be active in them. And then those national education and research networks, they now build onto the regional networks. And one of the most active networks is the one which covers East African countries and Southern African countries, which is the Ubuntu Net. And then you find South Africa is one of the most active. In Southern and East Africa, I think there are many more countries which are active in that. But the problem sometimes is conflicts. Somebody is trying to bring another similar one. And so it brings fragmentation, which they should deal with and make sure that at national level, there is no fragmentation and people are just coming together. You know, when you come together, you become stronger.
Doug, let's hear from you on what you expect from universities and also the AAU as a unifying front for African higher education institutions towards a very important destination, or let's say goal of trying to enhance online teaching and learning. But before that, let's know what we are losing. What does the AAU see African higher education institutions losing if we don't strengthen online teaching and learning? And what are the responsibilities are from these two parties?
When we look at it, we are losing a lot. In fact, we are losing our purpose. Because if I recall very well, earlier on around 2007 and earlier, there was a World Bank report which was saying Africa does not need higher and tertiary education. They only need primary and secondary school for their workforce. That should always linger behind the higher and tertiary education institutions. They should look out to make sure they are not losing their relevance. Because at a point when, for example, they are not actually taking on board seriously the digitalization and realize that besides the COVID-19 outbreak, we also have the fourth industrial revolution, and that the whole world is moving where are the graduates going to work when they are the future workforce? When all now the manufacturers are manufacturing tools, pieces of equipment which are ICT driven, do you see what we will lose? We will have graduates who cannot be employed anyway. I can give an example of a sewing machine that I can give an example of all the things that are used in making up a garment. We used to have tailor's chalk where we would draw a garment, we make these things and so on. But now you go and say, I want this machine. They tell you, no, we stopped producing that 3-4 years ago. Now this is the digitalized machine that you are going to use, where you press on these buttons and then you your measurement, you set it on the machine and you just push your fabric. If we are not training our graduates to do that, and yet that is what is prevailing, and what used to prevail is no longer there, because we are not an island as Africa. We are not an island as individual countries. We are now in the global village. And those industries have learned that with a digitalized sewing machine, they can produce more garments at a time in order to feed their market. Will they wait for a graduate who says, I can't operate this? No. Are they prepared to do training for somebody who has spent 4 years in medicine, somebody who has spent more than 6 years training medicine, but not using the relevant pieces of equipment? So universities are being encouraged by the AAU to say, embrace the change. If you don't embrace it, you become obsolete. You become irrelevant and you close. The graduates will continue to complain. They will continue to compare the quality of education that is being offered by other institutions, and they run there. So naturally, you call upon, we are having this program, nobody applies. We are having this program, a few people apply, which cannot support and sustain a program. You can't reach the threshold number of students for you to start a program, and so you close that program today. Next time you are closing another one, because people are exchanging information to say that it's a backward university, don't go there. Go to that one, and at least maybe they are even prepared to pay for the value education which ensures them of a job. So as institutions, I can say they need to be highly responsive, to be flexible, to be agile. Agility involves quick changes for the better. To be transformative institutions. Transformative in the fact that they need to take on board the new things that are coming. Yeah. To be transformative in curricular review and coming up with new degree programs that respond to the new jobs. Already, Ajamani, there are there's new vocabulary in the system throughout the world, number one. There are new jobs which were never there. You know, these Zoom platforms we are talking about, the Google platforms we are talking about and everything, they still need people to be retooled, retrained. And when you see the additives are so many in, you know, if there's one thing that is moving extremely fast throughout the world is technology. Yeah. Today you have this. By the end of 6 months, 6 months is too much. You are realizing that you need actually to retool and retrain. So training and staff development has become a key component for our employees in various departments, lab technicians, finance people, because now there are softwares also which are being updated for them to do with students, enroll students, finances, research finances and all that. Even then, it would not be adequate for me to close without even giving them We are drawing to teaching and learning, but including research. We have the Google Forms. We have the Survey Monkeys. We also have the other software packages that are used for data analysis. The starter, we normally used to know of the SPSS alone, but now both for qualitative and quantitative research, we now have some software. And there are many of them, so people should be going out. I encourage them to go out and look for information. But as the AAU, we are also embarking, and we have been doing so, information dissemination. We are doing it through workshops, through webinars, through other events and activities that we have. We are pushing information and disseminating to African higher education. We are also doing capacity building workshops in different areas. So the institutions can call upon us to say, we need this particular workshop, not necessarily in teaching and learning. We have in finance, we have in library and data, we have in research, we have in quality assurance, we have in entrepreneurship, we have in knowledge and information handling, or we have in handling the platforms for the purposes of keeping records, information and data repositories. We have all those. And some of the services are to do with installations. For example, we can do the installation of institutional repositories so that they can push all their publications, their theses and dissertations, and any other educative material that they can have. They should also make sure that they subscribe to the different online e-resources. There are some which are specialized maybe for agriculture, for medicine. There are some which are open, which have got many disciplines. There are open resources which can be accessed without paying a dime. They should be aware of those ones in order to augment the online teaching and learning. So you see, it's a whole banquet. It's a basket of a lot of things that are needed. Thank you, Ajaman.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vale Makuku, for your time here on AAU Talks to help us understand the issues and also how we can also give back to our institutions the solutions, the way forward. And I think that summing it all up, you made a point that the world isn't waiting for anyone, and in terms of the pace it's moving. If you really want to catch up on the competitive gains of the world and being on the table to make decisions to contribute to the world, the best graduates, and also enjoy on our population dividend with the youth and our graduates, then you need to also explore further into the future, and technology rules now. So not me, the World Bank actually brought a survey result of the 22 well sought after jobs for the future, and none of them was administrative. Everything was take it out, take it out, take it out, take it out. So you know that the future belongs to digitization. So if you're not doing your students a great deal of good with investing in these online teaching and learning platforms and making it so attractive for them to be glued on and make the best out of it, I think that maybe you are running yourself down the drain, because COVID-19 was just a test run to see how prepared we were for the future.
Yes.
But the next pandemic will not be as well. I wouldn't know how it will be like COVID-19, but it will run down so hard like how COVID was. So please let's heed to the well-meaning message of the AAU, and also try and then be responsive to these solutions so that we can also check out our boxes of being the real voice of higher education in Africa. Because if we speak and we don't hear you responding, then that means that our voice hasn't really been the voice, but just something that's not worth listening to. So please do also just heed to the call of the AAU.
Yes.
So together we can grow higher education in Africa. So thank you so much, Doc, for your
Thank
good
you
work.
too,
And
Ajaman.
keep up the work of advocacy. And AAU Talks, AAU TV is here to also put your word out there for the hearing of our institutions and our members. So
Thank you.
We'll come your way next time with another episode of AAU Talks, talking about matters that are topical and also very important to higher education in Africa. Have a nice day. Enjoy your day. Be safe and bye.